Earlier this year, you write an essay about sexual paranoia in academia for Chronicles of Higher Education, in which you criticize the sort of administrative changes, regulatory, and even social changes at the University at Northwestern as regards sexual assault and just sexism in general. And then the reaction goes bananas. There are protests, and eventually even 2 students filed a Title IX complaint against the words that you wrote, saying that it was somehow going to stifle a chilling effect on their lives.
Did anyone else notice the Kafkaesque bullshit implied in this statement? Laura Kipnis, a feminist, writes an article about how regulations are hampering free speech and free choice on campuses, and she's brought up on a Title IX violation because her questioning this doctrine is somehow going to harm students' rights to use this doctrine. Well, that's just a strange coincidence, isn't it? Laura Kipnis is one of many choice feminists, otherwise known as not completely batshit crazy feminists, who are revolting against the bell hooks style feminism, otherwise known as the completely batshit insane Tumblr feminism that has infected our higher education. Her article in the Chronicle of Higher Education is an interesting read, and it has a couple of really good gems in it, specifically in the way she refers to sex as an empowering act. She speaks about sex as something that falls under the category of life experiences, and to quote directly from her article, as Jane Gallup recalls in Feminist Accused of Sexual Harassment, sleeping with professors made her feel cocky, not taken advantage of. It's almost as if she views sex as something natural, something that most people enjoy, something that shouldn't be viewed as a perverted event, and that being demonized for being attracted to someone is on the same level as being demonized for breathing or being hungry. It's interesting to note that she's complaining about how professors are now viewed as predators, as an entirely negative concept. It would have been nice to hear the sentiment said about men decades ago. Looking at this event could possibly give outsiders an insight to the fractured state of academic feminism and how the schizophrenic throes of a postmodern ideology is actually due to the inane ramblings of entitled middle-class white women being given an equal footing to people with what's called in the industry actual academic credibility. Women have the right to appear sexy, but you're a hateful misogynist if you're a man and you happen to find a woman sexy. But how bad have things really gotten on campus? Well, after reading the Sexual Harassment Handbook, she discovered that inappropriate humor constitutes a violation of university policy.
And it's also a fight between comedians and feminists, which are natural enemies, the biggest easily, because stereotypically speaking, feminists can't take a joke, and stereotypically speaking, and comedians,
She goes on to comment about the answers to a test given at a sexual harassment workshop, with the first guideline on a printed list of guidelines being, don't make unwanted sexual advances. Well, how the fuck are you supposed to know if a sexual advance is unwanted before you make it? Thankfully, she asks this question and writes about the hilarious response. I'm serious about this. You should go and read this article if you haven't already. It's brilliant. And it's for this reason that it got so much backlash from the social justice elite running her university. You see, it goes back to a little-known fundamental aspect of power. Well, I think this clip from an IQ debate titled "Liberals Are Stifling Intellectual Debate on Campus" says it better. By the way, the result of this debate was in the favor of the motion.
Just a simple sort of basic philosophical point. John Stuart Mill, in his wonderful 1859 book on liberty, talks about civility. And this is why you should always be concerned about calls for civility, is he points out that civility ends up getting defined by the people who are in charge. And you'll notice that when people argue for civility, they tend to actually believe that whatever they say is civil. And if they're angry about it, it's righteous rage. But if you say it and it's kind of sharp or mean, then it's incivil. And this is one of the reasons why it is a problem that you have this incredible sort of liberal dominance on campus, is that you end up actually seeing in some cases what your point of view is as and anybody opposing as being fundamentally incivil. And sometimes disagreement, to be productive, can't be all that civil.
You might think that Laura Kipnis had enough of a dystopian experience with the sexual harassment workshop, but that wasn't the end of it. In what can only be said to be a modern artistic rendition of Kafka's book, The Trial, she was given a sort of due process by an outside firm conducting a Title IX investigation on her that had every aspect of a kangaroo court. Let's count them off, shall we? Now, I took this cursory list from thefreedictionary.com, which I will link to in the description of the video. But with my knowledge of the show CSI Miami, these are some of the more important ones. The first one is the right to be represented by an attorney.
They haul you in, you don't have access to a lawyer, but you can have a support person. Is that like a support animal or something?
Allowed to have a faculty support person, not a lawyer.
The right to be told of the crime being charged.
They wanted me to show up to a meeting and they would tell me the charges. They wouldn't put the charges in writing. So they wanted me to show up so they would tell me the charges in person and then have me respond to questions.
The right to an impartial jury of your peers.
But then I had a meeting with them that lasted 3 hours. There were the university brought in 2 outside investigators from a firm in another Midwestern city, flew them in.
And the right to demand that the state prove any charges beyond a reasonable doubt.
To conduct this investigation that went on for 72 days over essentially 7 words in this article.
All of this is terrible. This is all just a big pile of horse shit. It really is. But this isn't really the worst part. The worst part of it is this.
Yeah, did you have a gag order on your
It says something like, we expect you to keep this confidential. So I wouldn't say it was a gag order. And as I investigated, I couldn't find, was there some punishment if you didn't? So I just decided to go for it and expose it. And I did write the piece before the process had been finalized, because they were delaying a verdict on me. So because there are these secret tribunals going on that no one knows about and people are afraid to talk about. And I think that a lot of the people who've been brought up on charges are more reluctant to talk about it because I don't think they feel they're on as firm ground as I was. I did feel like I was in firmer ground going forward, partly because I'm tenured.
Well, thank fucking God for tenure. All of these things she's talking about are the things we've been talking about for years. These secret trials, these double standards, these dogmatic, hyperbolic, sex-hating, male-hating narratives that are being used to instill a culture of fear are plastered front to back in this situation. But nobody's been listening. In the past, whenever somebody with a pretty white face and breasts get involved in a feminist message, everybody takes their side despite the facts, despite the evidence, and despite any common goddamn sense. I mean, fuck. These people are crazy. They're making laws and regulations that are just fucking crazy, and it has to end somewhere. I'm a new YouTuber. I just started my channel because I like making videos and I like being opinionated. So I know this doesn't have a lot of weight behind it, but please, if you're watching this video, read Laura Kipnis' articles, watch the YouTube videos, and try and spread some awareness, because finally someone's standing up to the university spread outrage machine, and they might be able to affect some small amount of change.